My name is Derek Wood. I'm the Partner Product Manager here at SOS, and I'm also joined by Shaylin Herrick, who is our Business-to-Business Marketing Director of Marketing, rather. Today we're going to be going through a basic overview of the industry. First, I'll go through just a history of SOS altogether, and an overview of where we've come as a service provider and how our partner program has changed today with the addition of ServerSave, and what our ServerSave program means not only to you entering this market, but what it means to your customers, how it changes your offering for managed backup solutions. And then we're going to go through the specific features and benefits of ServerSave versus some of the competitors in the market. And we're also going to go through the competitive landscape, and so you can get a good visual of what we're really trying to do here. We're going to go over what's included with the ServerSave partner program. So besides just the software, what else are you getting when you come on board with us? And then we're going to go through a product tour, and we can have questions throughout the presentation. Just use the chat function that most of you have already been using, and we'll be good to go. So first, an overview of SOS and where the industry has moved in the last few years. So today we're looking at online backup or cloud backup is being in the early majority phase of adoption, which is great for everyone. That means that the majority of your clients are going to be looking to implement this type of service today. Where SOS has come from historically is we were founded, as many tech startups have, in humble beginnings, a dorm room startup, but based out of Melbourne, Australia, rather than Silicon Valley. From 2001 to 2005, the operation was quite limited geographically to small operations in Australia. 2005-2006 was when we actually started launching an international operation, specifically here in the U.S. And 2006 is when we won our first PC Mag Editor's Choice Award with a beta client. So that was, of course, a really exciting start to SOS internationally. From 2006 to 2008, 2009, our primary focus was on large distribution partners, companies like Bitdefender, Webroot, Online Backup for Dummies, etc. And we had a very humble affiliate program and direct sales operation. 2009 was the birth and launch, mid-2009 was the birth and launch of our white label program. So the private label partner that Luis, you have a question about it, this private label offering started in mid-2009, and now we're a couple years deep into it, and now we have the SOS ServerSave program. So we've really seen this take off as the primary source of revenue for our company, and it's what we spend our time building and focusing on as time goes on. So our partners are really what we designed the ServerSave program for. With online backup, we specialize in a file and folder backup program for much of the innovation and early adoption phase. The innovators and early adopters are really people who like to be in the leading edge, but for the most part, low dollar amount of as far as adoption. Maybe a single workstation, a single user. Maybe they didn't have some type of solution in place previously, and so moving into a new technology was rather simple. Most of our adopters at that phase were in large metropolitan areas where the internet connectivity was already set up and good to go. So the struggles we've seen, not the struggles, but the changes we've seen over the last 4 to 6 years has been increase in the infrastructure, so internet and high-speed internet availability more specifically, the savviness and faith in the security behind cloud backup services. Now you have, from 2008 to 2009, you had the difference of about probably $10 million in marketing between Mozy and Carbonite alone. So it was a stark launch that was really hard hit, radio ads, Pandora, all of that. So now people are generally familiar with the cloud backup services. The IDC report we have here at the bottom reads that 16% of the companies surveyed over the last couple of years, these SMBs, which is most of you are serving, only 16% of the SMBs have some sort of online backup or cloud backup strategy in place, usually to a limited extent. Single user, single machine, and it's still very much an evaluation period. So we have 16% of your customers, let's just use these numbers scaling to you individually. 16% of your customers are familiar with it and ready to move forward with a big integration in the next year or so. The remainder of those people are just beginning to evaluate or plan to use it. So a lot of the times we're looking at, your typical environment. You have some sort of bulky hardware program or system. You have to switch the tapes in and out every day, or drives. Hopefully you're moving away from tapes. But something that's quite human resource heavy, and anytime you have the human element involved, you're open up to more error. So one of the biggest things that we're trying to avoid with the automation of a daily scheduled backup is avoiding that human error. Not switching the tapes out correctly, not taking notice of the red light that said the backup actually failed, things of this nature. So with online backup and the automation behind the technology in backup, both locally and off-site, we've been able to really narrow down the risk and the exposure to data loss that you all have.
And we have another really interesting adoption fact. About 1.6% of IT budgets in 2010 were dedicated to cloud services, and IDC, yes, our favorite analyst group, to source, is expecting that will be increasing to 3% by 2014. So I know those sound like really small numbers, but it's actually a doubling. 1.6 to 3% of IT budgets are going to be dedicated to cloud services. So there's a huge group that is yet to adopt cloud services in their businesses, and there's also a huge amount of budget yet to be allocated to it.
A couple of people are saying that there's an echo, making it hard to hear. Is everyone hearing us okay? We'll make sure the audio is good. Okay. So exactly, spot on with what Shaylin is saying is we're really looking at a huge growth in this market. So we're really riding kind of the coattails of the managed service market. So is anyone here already pretty deep into managed services, meaning you have a monthly subscription fee for set services in place? And if you are newly moving into that, please let us know about that as well. And as those are coming in, what we find is that our partners really love our program because we provide a very easy entry into the managed service market by first having a managed backup solution in place. So a managed backup solution is a great starting point because it's the lowest common denominator of services that your customers need. Everyone needs to have a backup solution. I think no one really argues against that. And the struggle that a lot of IT service providers have if they don't have a good packaged solution is really convincing their customers that they need to spend money on these types of things. So we have a great mix in today's crowd. We have people who are coming from the hourly only rate and moving into MSP. We have a lot of people who are newly in the MSP, so first 6 months, first year, and then we have a couple who have been doing managed service packages for a couple of years now, and are just looking at switching up and or enhancing their backup solution, I believe is what Steve and Michael are saying, and David as well. So that's great. So this is really a terrific program to really get into that market. So what we're looking at is, what does it mean to enter this market with the managed service backup? Well, to really provide a managed backup solution, you have to provide a total business data protection. So that's this, this first checkbox up here. You need to make sure that you're identifying all the exposure to data loss and all the risks involved in your business. A survey done, I believe, by IDC and surveyed by TechCrunch was that a majority of the businesses that went under over the last few years has not been because the economy's bad. A majority of the businesses that went under were because of poor risk management practices, which basically boils down to they didn't have a managed service provider in place, and their hard drive, their server would fail, and then they had no backup in place, so the backup they had in place wasn't so great, and the downtime between the restore time objective was so great that they ended up not surviving. So it's really important, especially when times are tough, for every business to have some sort of risk management plan. And a risk management plan is just really the idea that you have in your head, but just getting the pen to the pad. What happens, if you have one tech in per territory, what happens if you have a disaster in that territory and that tech is out sick? Who gets called? A lot of these things you would just kind of reflex back to, but having a strategic plan in place where anyone could reference what's supposed to happen in terms of prevention as well as in terms of reaction to something that couldn't be prevented is really the best way to keep your businesses up and running. So that total business data protection, you could even just remove the data part of it and just say total business protection. Get a risk management plan in there for your customers. Most small businesses don't take the time to do something that formal, and it really doesn't take a whole lot of time. And once you do one for one customer, you'll find that it's maybe a 15, 20-minute session of changes for all of your other customers. So it's really recommended by us to just take that step into formalizing your managed service packages with something like a formal risk registry. And for more information on that, you can always reach out to the Project Management Institute, so pmi.org, or we also go over it with our partner webinars that we have weekly where we discuss, mechanisms of success in the SOS Partner Program. Steve has been around for 20 years, says, did you say formal risk registry? I did. So, break out that Excel spreadsheet and start putting the words down of things you have to worry about in every business. What happens if, Sue in accounting loses her laptop? What happens if your sales guy out in the field, drops his laptop in the gutter, gets trampled by, a car or a horse or a messenger on the bike, whatever the case may be. These types of things, as silly as they may sound, is what's really necessary to make sure that you're giving your customers a true business protection plan. And a lot of that involves data protection with online backup services. So looking into the product, what exactly are we talking about when we say we're going to give you a full protection plan? Most scenarios that you see in the market, and while I'm talking about this, if you could each give me just a quick description of what most of your customers currently have in plan for backup strategies, that'd be great. But for the most part, we find SMBs, 5 to 50 users. Let's just keep it in that realm. Steve says prayer. Prayer is the backup solution in place, and that's funny, but it's true. You'll have to stop from crying sometimes. So the whole idea is that most SMBs today, if they have a backup solution in place, is something very limited. It's a single strategy in backup. So we have a lot of people come in, okay, we have backup exec to tapes or drives. Most people say that we're still doing tapes. Limited workstation backups. Some guys with smaller offices are going to USB drives. We have some Zenith partners in place using the Zenith BDR units in place, so that's good. Okay. Again, tape backup, GFS rotation. Dan's got a mix of all sorts of stuff. He got tapes, NAS devices, managed online backup, but not reliable local monitor program. All right, so that's good. Yeah, so all these are really pretty intense when it comes to the human resource aspect. So, you probably, how many of you are personally managing all those things? Or have you trained a office manager to manage the backups? David says, yes, he's managing all of it personally, or your techs, I take it. You are? And that's a really expensive amount of time to be managing those things. With our solutions and with the cloud solution especially, for the most people, or for the most part, it's that initial backup where you spend getting time making sure that everything's set up properly, getting it running, and that's the initial push. Online backup can take some time, but it's the backups after that initial backup are super fast, and you will see when we go through the demo where the tape swapping and the drive swapping is almost going to be something of the past. Once you come into this program, you really don't need to do stuff like that anymore. You could at least not as your basic package. If it makes people feel comfortable, then that's, of course, your job as a managed service provider, is to make people feel comfortable that that work is being done. But you're going to come out today with an idea of a very nice, smooth system where you can avoid this menial task of tape swapping, NAS swapping, USB drives, eSATA drive, all that stuff, and really just come into a smooth solution. So what do we have planned for the SOS ServerSave program and what you're going to get? Well, starting here at, let's call it 1150, we have Backup Your Cloud Life. This is a brand new venture that SOS is getting into. Right now we're still testing out our Facebook backup, but what we found was more and more businesses are using social mediums that are all cloud-based for marketing purposes, doing customer surveys, reaching out to people, getting feedback. So all of these social platforms are just hosted to be accessible in that one spot. But I think Facebook has quotes of, 500,000 accounts that are, trifled with in some poor way every day. So, what if you were to lose all of your contacts and all the posts from Facebook? A lot of you probably use those quotes in your marketing collaterals, your leave behinds, or your feel goods, or it's a good way to reach out to customers. Every time there's a major global event, the Twitterverse shuts down. How do you recoup all of your followers and the contacts you made on that over the years or the months, whatever the case may be? So it's really important that we all understand that there is no true cloud that is this golden gate shrouded in naked babies flying around with perfection. These are still hardware devices managed by people. People are going to make mistakes. So we have to make sure that we're backing those things up, which is a big part of our service of the dual offsite backup. So when we back up your data, it's going to a data center, of course, but then it's being replicated to a completely geographically separate second data center. And that's why we do that. It's because there is, data centers or the cloud are not these, impenetrable fortresses of good. Bad things do happen. Mistakes do happen. Software error, hardware error, it happens everywhere. Error is all around us. So it's really about how we take the prevention methods and the identification of these issues and these possible risks and just move forward with them. So we have the cloud backup that we're working on right now, and we expect to get some more social mediums under our backup wing in the next 3, 6, and 9 months. And as we feel comfortable with the success of those, we're really looking to release a few of them in a generic form to all of our partners to use for your customers. Or you could always choose just a co-brand with, powered by SOS, David Backup, powered by SOS, in which case then it really doesn't matter. You can use all of our stuff. The other part that we've added recently is the mobile life. So more and more our mobile devices, you can't even call them phones. It's where we're doing email, banking. You can sign documents and contracts from your mobile device now with certain programs like Sign Now. How do you back up information from there? Again, another way to back up contacts. Also a way to access your information. So sometimes, even if you're using a nice collaborative storage service like SOS Collaborate or Dropbox or Box.net, those systems are nice, but they typically don't have all the data that you would be working with or need access to. Your backup solution is going to cover everything, whereas the storage type of solutions generally only cover your active data. So you wouldn't put your external hard drives on your storage solution, but you would put it in your backup set. So having the mobile application is really nice, or at least the mobile portal, where you can easily search for a file that you're looking for. You can recover it, preview it, depending on the browser you're on and the device you're on, or you could share it with somebody via a secure email link. So it's a very nice way to make the backup service an actual productive tool in your environment. So salespeople out in the field, they need to get a contract or a technical document or a program description to somebody. How many days go by for every deal that you're working on because you have to get to a physical location to send that information to somebody? How much time could you save and how much more money could you generate if you were able just to share that file to somebody by pulling up your phone? Very simple stuff. Then we have desktop life. So workstations, whether they're on-site or it's a laptop fleet, Users are the biggest point of risk in any system. Anytime you have the human element involved, that's where risk is the greatest. You can't prevent it. You just got to set yourself up well enough to react to it. So the ability to install the file and folder system that is renowned for being both simple and secure is a really nice way to cover the extremities of your network. Again, Harvard Review as well as TechCrunch both reviewed that still about 60% of a business's data is not centralized and controlled by the IT staff or the CIO. It still resides solely on the individual workstations and desktops and laptops of the users in the business. That's company information.